Explain to me why Gino Suarez only got 1 year 15. It's a great move for the Reds. I love the move for the Reds, but why were there other teams not clamoring for his attention, like the Red Sox, the Yankees? I mean, there's a list of teams you could come up with that all could afford 1 year and 15 million for a guy that can hit you 50.
Yeah, AJ, you and I are on the same page on that. I don't get it. And one of the things when I look at the Yankees lineup, they're two left-handed, right? The only right-hand bats they have right now are Aaron Judge, whoever's playing shortstop, and Giancarlo Stanton. And we all know Giancarlo Stanton's injury history. But besides that, they're all left-handed. They needed a right-handed bat, and Suarez could have been that, back up third, back up first, back up DH. I mean, for 1 year at $15 million, are you kidding me? Look at the Detroit Tigers, another team, way too left-handed. They need another right-hand bat, and their best prospects are all left-hand hitters too that are coming, like Kevin McGonigal and Max Clark and Briseño. So, I think that he would have fit so many spots. I'm surprised the Pirates didn't make a better effort. That one really surprises me. But I always like to give credit where credit's due. And Nick Kroll, the president, Brad Meter, the GM, they listened to Todd Frazier last week on Foul Territory. And Todd was manifesting Suarez going to the Reds as the DH. I texted with Nick Kroll yesterday. I wanted to know the role that Suarez was going to have. He was very clear with me. He said, look, he's going to DH. He'll play some third, and we'll give him some reps at first base in spring training. To get a 49 home run bat at Great American Small Park, the hit in your middle of the lineup, that was a huge pickup for them. And look, shame on some of the teams that weren't more aggressive. Look, I even thought a team like the Rockies would have been smart. Sign him, give him a 2-year deal, trade him at the trade deadline. Let him hit all those homers at Coors Field and try to get a prospect for him. But at the end of the day, I think he landed in a great spot for him, a great ballpark. He's familiar with the city. He's going to add to that culture in that clubhouse. So I love the signing for them. I thought it was a bargain deal. And yes, I agree with you. I think a lot of teams missed the boat with Suarez.
No question about that. And good for the Cincinnati Reds locking him up. And Erik was making the point, Jim, that it's unbelievable that a guy on basically February 1st is a cleanup hitter and is being signed this late into the offseason. Your first episode with Trade Dropped, it was all on the AL East, so we're going to stick to the National League here. Your reaction to the Luis Arraez signing with the San Francisco Giants and what that does to the middle of their infield and the middle of their order. And why is this a guy, Jim, that has 3 batting titles to his credit, yet he keeps getting traded or he's continued to be available?
Yeah, so I'll start, first of all, with the last question that you threw out there. It's because Arraez wins the batting title. He does it without power, without speed, and a below-average defender with below-average range. So you're getting one tool, right? And it's an important tool because he can create traffic. And that's what I like about his fit with the Giants. He can hit at the top of the lineup, get on base, and that allows Devers, Adames, and Chapman, when they go yard, that it can be a 2-run homer or a 3-run homer instead of a solo shot. So from an offensive perspective, I like it. Now, keep in mind, while the Dodgers have been shopping at Bloomingdale's and Saks Avenue and Neiman Marcus, the Giants have spent the winter shopping at Target and Costco and Walmart. But that doesn't mean they're not getting value deals, and I think Arraez comes at a value, just like I thought Harrison Bader, who I think is a 4th outfielder, but it improved their defense in center field. I like them taking a chance on Tyler Mahle in the middle of their rotation. If he can stay healthy, he can help. So these small moves, I think, makes them a little better. It brings them closer to the Padres, although not the Dodgers. But I think when you look at Arraez, the other fit that I have is a couple of things. Number one, Ron Washington is there on the San Francisco staff. So Ron Washington can be working with him defensively. He makes everybody better defensively. So I like that. Number two, right now they've got Bryce Eldridge going to be the DH. He's 6'7". He's 21 years old. He has big holes at the plate. There's no guarantee that he's going to be Rookie of the Year. There's no guarantee he's going to hit in the first 2 months. In fact, he could pull an Aaron Judge. And if you remember Aaron Judge's rookie year, he punched out 50% of the time, literally. Eldridge, that could happen to him as well. So for the Giants to have Arraez, if Eldridge doesn't hit, you can option him out. You can put Arraez at DH and put Casey Schmidt back at second base to improve your defense at the position. So I like the play for traffic. I like the depth play in case Eldridge doesn't hit. And I like the value dollar-wise.
All right. I love that both these players, Eugenio Suarez and Luis Arraez, both signed pretty much on the same days. As a GM, who got better value? $12 million for Arise into the Giants lineup, or $15 million for Eugenio Suarez into the Reds lineup?
It's the 15 million for Suarez for me in the lineup for sure, because it's, he may not hit 49 homers, but he'll probably hit 40 in that ballpark, right? And that's huge for that team. The big 3-run homers. I think he can be more of a difference maker for Cincinnati than Arise can be for San Francisco. So for $3 million more to get a 40 home run bat, yeah, I'm going to take Suarez, and I like the question.
All right, so you mentioned Pittsburgh. I mentioned Pittsburgh. Is Pittsburgh, and I said this, Pittsburgh's got a point where they have to overpay, and we've had this conversation. And it's not on the knock on the Pirates. Listen, they're trying, but if you go to Geno Suarez and they say, oh, we're willing to go 2 years, a little bit higher AAV, if you go to him and say, we'll give you 240, do you think he's going to say no to that? Like, you have to overpay because Pittsburgh hasn't proven over the last, honestly, I mean, I know they made the playoffs in the, 13, 14, around there. But honestly, they haven't been really relevant since the Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla. I'm talking like where they have a chance to win the World Series. So you have to prove to players that you're relevant and you really are trying, not just doing window dressing. Am I wrong on this?
Yeah, you're not wrong. And let me take you behind the curtain there with GM Ben Cherington, who, as we all remember, was a world champion general manager of the big market Boston Red Sox. And when he left there, he went to the Toronto Blue Jays, another big market team where he's used to paying what the value is of players. And then he'd gone over to Pittsburgh, and the ownership hasn't given him money really to spend on free agents since he's been there. This is the first year he's had a little bit of money to spend, and I'm just not sure he's used to understanding how hard it is to get players to a team like the Pittsburgh market. It's difficult. It's not easy, and you have to overpay to get them. I made the comment earlier today, they didn't really want Eugenio Suarez, because if they did, they would have gotten him. They would have done 2 years at 40 or 2 years at 38, and they would have gotten the player. So I don't want to hear that they wanted the player. Yes, they were interested. They didn't want him bad enough. That's kind of how it came down. If I'm Suarez and I have two similar offers, one in Cincinnati and one in Pittsburgh, I'm taking Cincinnati. That's where I'm going. And I think that's what Suarez did. But to your point, yeah, Pirates are going to have to learn from this experience. They undershot Kyle Schwarber. They should have made him the highest offer that any team did to at least have a chance for him. And they should have taken advantage of Suarez being on the open market. He might have been a game changer for them. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that Ben, if nothing else, learned. And we'll see if he can make an adjustment, because I still think they need one more bat.
Jim, why didn't the Red Sox even make an offer? And why are the offers so similar? Why is everyone offering a 1-year, $15 million deal? It seems like they're chatting.
Yeah, well, I don't want to answer that last part. I'm going to answer the first part. The Red Sox don't like his defense at third base. So they don't want the defense at third. They can't have him DH because they've got 4 outfielders, of which one has to DH every single night. They've got the best outfield in baseball. So the bottom line there was the defense at third. They didn't want Suarez to block Marcelo Meyer when he's healthy. They've got him at third base right now. And they're really concerned about the defense, and they should be, right? They have an elite defensive outfield, but the infield defense was very questionable last year, and there are still questions about that this year. So that is the answer. I probably would have taken a shot just because I would have liked him in that lineup at Fenway Park. I might have tried to live with the below average defense at third base and defense for him late in games. So that would have been my opinion. But to answer your question, that's why Craig Breslow passed on him.
All right, everybody loves to come and watch the show for your outfits, but they love to read projections because they know you're going to be exactly right. Let's start with the National League East. You had the Mets first, the Phillies third. Do they both make the playoffs? And kind of explain a little bit of your projections and your off-season grading for the National League East.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Let me start with the Phillies. Phillies were hard for me to navigate through because I just don't know what I'm getting with Zach Wheeler. So, I don't know when Wheeler is going to be activated, and I don't know what he's going to look like. There are some pitchers that have had thoracic outlet syndrome that have never come back, like Steven Strasburg, although his was a different kind. But that's a question for me. If someone could tell me that Zach Wheeler is going to be the ace that he once was, I would think differently. I don't know what Aaron Nola's going to be. He really looked like he was declining to me. The stuff wasn't the same. Is he going to have a bounce back here? I'm not sure I know what he is. And with Andrew Painter, is he going to live up to the potential that we saw of him in the minor leagues? Another year away from Tommy John, can he live up to the potential? I don't know those questions. You're going to miss Ranger Suarez. I do know that question. I love Sanchez. He's now the ace right now of the Phillies, but it was the question mark in the starting pitching that had me put the Phillies in third place, probably in the playoffs, to answer your question, as a wild card team. But that's the only reason they weren't there. If the Wheeler and Nola answers are positive, then they've got as good a chance of any of winning the division. I kind of like the Odolis Garcia signing. The more that I look at it, the more I talk to people that had him last year, like Chris Young and Brett Boone, I get a little bit more excited about maybe a comeback year for him. Kind of open-minded with that, kind of watching that. They're running back the same team. You know, I don't love the fact they're doing that again. I would have liked them to be able to land Bichette. That would have been a difference maker. In terms of the Mets, this was fascinating because they had like the worst offseason until January. And then all of a sudden they made those flurry of moves and just completely changed the outlook for me. Adding Freddie Peralta with Nolan McLean at the top of the rotation, that's significant for me. I think McLean may be the guy starting game one with Peralta starting game two, but now they have starting pitching depth as well. So they've got two guys at the top that are ace quality, and now they're 7 deep. And Jonah Tong may not even be in the rotation on opening day if Senga and Minaya are healthy. So, you know, with Peterson and Holmes, I just like the depth there. I think Devin Williams and Luke Weaver will be fine. Williams looked good at the end of the year, so hopefully he can bounce back. And then I just, you know, up the middle defensively, right? Simeon at second, Lindner at short, Robert at center, and Alvarez catching. I love that defense up the middle. And adding Bichette and Polanco, I mean, those are two 20-home run guys. Bichette creates traffic. And I love the Soto sandwich of Lindor and Bichette sandwiching him in that lineup, whether it's Bichette 1, Lindor 3, or vice versa. I kind of like that. So I just feel like there's momentum in New York. I think the pendulum has swung. And so I gave them an A- for my offseason grades, and I predicted them to win the division. I had Atlanta in second. I gave them a B+. I like the fact they got Robert Suarez and brought Iglesias back at the back end of the bullpen. Atlanta's grade has to do with, and putting them in second is kind of like Philadelphia. Is the pitching going to be healthy? I mean, is Chris Sale back? Is Schwellenbach back? I mean, that I don't know. Is Spencer Strider going to be the guy we saw 3 or 4 years ago before Tommy John, or is he the guy we saw last year? Again, I don't know those questions. I do know this. If Atlanta's healthy, they're a playoff team. I do know that. So, again, I love this division. Miami's much better. I thought they had a solid offseason. Washington, you know, they're rebuilding, but they're doing it the right way. So I think all in all, the NL East had a really good offseason. I lined them up, Mets, Braves, Phillies for now. We'll see if spring training changes anything, but that's kind of how I see it today.
Jim, I just want to go back to something you said about the Phillies. You question their pitching depth. Isn't that why they brought back Aaron Nola? Isn't that why they thought they could let Ranger Suarez get away? Isn't that why Jesus Luzardo was brought in? They have Andrew Painter. Is he going to bounce back, right? But this is the one thing. When they signed Aaron Nola, they said, we have consistency, right? They bring back Real Muto. They bring back Kyle Schwarber. We have consistency. We have consistency. We have consistency. Now everybody outside of Philadelphia is saying, man, are they too old? Now Nola's losing his stuff. Did they make some wrong decisions along the way of bringing back guys just to bring them back because they loved them?
I think you can, when you're running teams, I think you can get a team that's stale and you can have players that are together too long. And I think sometimes it's good whether you influx young players or whether you make some changes. I thought the Nola deal, I thought Joe Longo negotiated a great deal for Nola, a great long-term deal that was very player-friendly at the time. I questioned it at the time. And when you look at the dollars, it was an amazing deal for Nola. But again, none of us know for sure, you know, how long pitchers can pitch at a certain level. You know, you didn't know that at the time. None of us do. But I don't think we can ignore what we're watching. In terms of the position players, you know, it's, you know, how long has Alec Bohm been there? You know, Bryson Stott. Is there a chance to upgrade? They tried to with Bo Bichette. He recognized it. But I think one of the positive keys for Philadelphia could be the rookie Justin Crawford in center field. He's going to bring youth, energy, speed, range in the outfield. So that could be huge. Aiden Miller could get ready at some point during the season. He could take over third base or second base or play shortstop, and Turner could move to second base. I mean, I think that, those kind of things could change the direction of this team. But to me, the Phillies, it's all about that rotation. If you tell me Wheeler, Nola, Luzardo, and Sanchez are going to live up to when we've seen them the best, then they can run the table in October. So I don't think their run is over, but I think they better be careful because they are getting older and they are getting stale.
Jim, let's move our focus to the NL Central. You had said in your grades that Chicago, you expect them to be first. Not a huge shocker there. But the question for Cincinnati that you pose is, even with Suarez on board, Jim, do they have enough offense to make it back to the postseason? They did make it last year. They lost to the Dodgers in 2 games, but they were in the postseason. Do they have enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think, all right, so let's talk about what has to happen for them to have enough, right? 2 of the keys for me are right fielder Noelvi Marte and first baseman Sal Stewart. I love both their bats. Can they do it this year? Can they be consistent? Can they give us 500 plate appearances and live up to the offense? We don't have that answer. I know they have the potential of doing that. Can L.A. De La Cruz be the player that we think he's going to be this year? Or is he going to be the player that he's been so far? Great tools. It looks like a player that could be an MVP player someday. It looks like a guy could be in the Hall of Fame someday. You have to do it, though, right? You can't keep talking about it. You can't chase out of the zone. You got to be more consistent. If he's healthy, can he live up to our expectations? Will he finish top 5 in the MVP? I think that has to happen for them. And then, you look at the bottom of the lineup. I need Matt McClain to be the player I saw his rookie year, which I haven't seen since, right? He's gone through a lot of injuries. Another year away from his shoulder surgery. Hopefully he can add to that. So I just kind of think there's a lot of questions with their young hitters, and I think there's a lot of questions at the very bottom of their lineup. So I think, that's kind of why I look at it. They were an 83-win team last year that made the playoffs. If you blinked, you would have missed their series with the Dodgers. But the thing I love about the Reds is I love the starting pitching. I love the bullpen depth. I love the manager in Terry Francona. I think this is an 85 to 87 win team. Is that going to be good enough to make the playoffs? I don't know. But I do think I have both the Cubs and the Brewers ahead of them because I think the Reds lineup needs more length. And I think we have a lot of questions about young hitters living up to potential.
Which NOS storyline is the one that's going to shape the division more than any other one? Ketel Marte still being out there, possibly to be traded, uncertainty of what is going to happen with Tony Vitello and managing the Giants. Is it just the Dodgers are just going to be the World Series champions, so everyone else is playing for second place?
Well, I mean, I think in the West, the Dodgers, for the first time, I don't think will have a race. And we have been having a race. I mean, people don't realize in the regular season last year, Milwaukee Brewers had a better record than the Dodgers. But we've watched a race between the Padres have been in it. Arizona's been in it for years. I don't think we're going to have that anymore. I think the Dodgers offseason has said goodbye, ciao and chillax, everybody. You're gone. Okay. We'll see you guys in October. Okay. I think there's the biggest separation we've seen in a long, long time with this Dodger team, which is built so well at every level, by the way, the minor league system, the scouting, the analytics, science, technology. They're the model of baseball. That's what they are. And they're in a dynasty that we should all embrace and enjoy. So I think what's going to be fun is the race between the Padres and Giants for second or third. Can one of these teams make the playoffs? I think that's going to be a really big storyline. And yeah, I do think at some point Ketel Marte gets traded. And I do think the 2 managers, though, with San Diego and San Francisco, both of them, whether it's Vitello or Craig Stammen, I think it's fascinating to watch how they succeed or how they develop or what hiccups they have. I mean, it's kind of interesting, kind of bizarre to me that we have 2 really inexperienced major league managers in these positions. And I'm just going to be fascinated to see kind of how that plays out. So I guess if I had to pick one storyline, because I think the Dodgers is too easy, I think it's the 2 managers in San Diego and San Francisco and how they do.
Do you see the Dodgers running away with the actual record because of how they use their rotation? Somebody's barking a little. We already heard Blake Snell is kind of exhausted from last year's 100 innings that he threw, and they're kind of holding them back a little bit. Do you feel like they're really going to push to win 100 games, or they're just built so deep that they're just going to win 100 games?
Yeah, they're built so deep they're going 100 games, yes. But to answer your question, they're going to play the regular season for October. They're not going to push these starting pitchers. So they're going to go with a 6-man rotation. And then as we get to June and July, we're going to have an injured list of an oblique, or we're going to have a toenail that needs to go on the IL. And we're just going to monitor the innings. We're going to go slow. We're going to get everything ready for October. And we're going to show off our pitching depth as we develop Sasaki and Sheehan. We still have Landon Knack. Bobby Miller hasn't gone away. We're going to go and take our time. And that bullpen, yes, they've got Diaz now in the back end, arguably the best closer in the league, but they're 8 deep after him. They've got 8 guys that they can run out there. So starters don't have to go deep into games. We can take our time. Give me 5. I'll go to the bullpen. I've got 8 guys, and I got a farm system loaded with more. So, yeah, let's take our time. We're just going to yawn, win 100, and we'll catch in October. And we'll be ready to go in October, believe me.
Before we go, I got to ask, Gallen, Framber, Valdez, are they going to sign? Because spring training starts in about, a week? I think some teams report on the 10th-ish, 11th-ish, around then. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here, Jim. Have you heard anything about those two guys?
Yeah, AJ, you know what's funny? I've heard nothing about Framber, and I've been trying to dig. I've been trying to get something, anything from anybody. And all I keep hearing is probably going to end up in Baltimore, but I think the market for him is just completely fell flat. And I just don't know what the agents are planning now. I don't know if they're planning on, hey, I'll wait to spring training and see if somebody blows their arm out, where maybe somebody else jumps in. Obviously, they don't have anything on the table they like. I don't know if they're ready to do the Suarez thing and just sign that short one-year deal and have a home. But I have not heard anything, AJ, and I have been digging very hard. In terms of Gallen, he does have a pretty good market, but he is tied to draft pick compensation, which is a problem. He's coming off a down year, which is somewhat of an issue. I keep hearing a return to Arizona is most likely. That's the latest I've heard, but there are a lot of teams in on Zach Gallen. He does have a robust market, and Scott Boras represents him. And Scott, as you know, never going to be in a hurry. He's going to take his time. He's going to think that if he may have an advantage to wait until spring training starts, Scott's never been afraid to do that with a client. So I'm not really worried about Gallen finding a home. I think he can always return to Arizona. Framber's kind of, to me, the most fascinating free agent of this entire offseason. I can't wait to see where he lands and how much he gets. I can tell you one thing. If I was a GM of any of these teams, I would be making that phone call every single day to see if there isn't a way I could steal the player.
Jim, always phenomenal information. We appreciate it very much. Don't forget, you guys, a brand new show, GM Territory with Jim and his son, Trey. Let's make sure you guys get to subscribe to that. We appreciate it.